Sometimes I think it's easy to feel like everything is just going wrong in the world, you know? Well, sometimes you get a nice bit of cosmic justice. Can you describe it as that? So one of the things a lot of us in the pro-democracy movement, on the pro-democracy side, have been begging people to pay attention to is Project 2025. Yes, the notion of Trump getting elected is terrifying, but do you know what the allies around him are planning for a potential second term? Do you know what the governing agenda looks like, right? And a lot of that has been something that we're not getting enough traction in the mainstream media on, especially in this current moment when everything's about Biden, it seems. The threat that is posed by this agenda seems to not be getting the attention that it deserves. But then Trump said, you know what? While if I just sit back on the sidelines for a moment here, the media's having a discussion that is seemingly mostly negative for Biden, and I could just sit back. But instead, he insisted on helping to pull the conversation a little bit back, shooting himself in the foot, and causing more discussion about Project 2025 than I've seen ever, all at once because of one post from him. We talked about this post yesterday, but then we'll dive into what I mean by how this is shooting him in the foot. Trump posted, I know nothing about Project 2025. I have no idea who's behind it. I disagree with some of the things they're saying, and some of the things they're saying are absolutely ridiculous and abysmal. Anything they do, I wish them luck, but I have nothing to do with them. Now, as I'll remind you of a little bit later, most people don't buy that for a second, given who has been putting this together, and also given that Trump has been espousing many of the plans that are in this. So even if he doesn't want to label himself someone associated with Project 2025, his plan is essentially that anyways. Someone pointed out that Project 2025 and Heritage Foundation are both trending. Finally, that's their words and mine. But, you know, sometimes Trump just, I understand clearly with his whole cult and everything, he must have some political instincts, but sometimes he just really seems to miss the mark, because then you had segment after segment finally pulling away from a conversation that was benefiting Trump back to one that frightens the American people justifiably so and reminds them of the stakes in this election. Is Biden a perfect candidate? No. Is he the candidate you vote for if you want any serious governance and the prevailing of our democracy? Yes. And if something shakes up and it's someone else on that side, does the reasoning stand? Yes. Here's Chris Hayes breaking this down.
Project 2025 is a blueprint for a second Trump administration. The agenda basically institutes a kind of Trump dictatorship where the MAGA zealots decide things like what you can read and view, what kind of health care you can get. And that's just the parts they've made public. There are other parts that are hiding, as one of the leaders of the project said last fall.
The basis of the plan is public. You can see that at project2025.org. There are parts of the plan that we will not share with the left. The executive orders, the rules and regulations, just like a good football team, we don't want to tip off our playbook to the left.
When he says the left, he means the majority of Americans who don't want what he's peddling. Democrats understand how unpopular and dangerous this plan is. They're trying to publicize it, including with a new congressional task force. Joining me.
And in our segment yesterday about the initial post, we talked a little bit more about what this plan entails, using the Department of Justice as just a tool of the president. We know how Trump would use that. Instead of its sort of independence that it governs with now from the president, he would make it just his own attack dog. And Trump has said he would then use that to go after his political opponents. Or rolling back rights, as was mentioned there, women's health care, abolishing the Department of Education, ripping out a lot of the things that hold our institutions together so that they can plug in only Trump loyalists. They call this combating the deep state or uprooting the bureaucracy. But what you're doing is kneecapping our government's ability to govern effectively for people, despite which political person is at the top. But instead, only loyalists who can sign off on every single ambition of Trump's. And at the center of this, you have a goal to centralize power like we haven't seen before in the office of the presidency, to give the president more power and to deteriorate the checks and balances such that Trump, again, would not have the pushback that maybe prevented his worst ambitions from being realized in the previous term. As I mentioned, a lot of people were pointing out that no one buys this. No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen account said Trump said he has no idea who's behind Project 2025. Here he is standing with two leading architects of that plan. You also have Biden-Harris HQ saying, hope this helps. Stephen Miller and you, whose organization is on the advisory board of Project 2025, in a Project 2025 recruitment video. I responded to Congressman Maxwell Frost saying BS to that post from Trump. You also have this video, who is a leader, Kevin Roberts. You saw one of those videos saying this.
We've been working with all of them on one project since soon after Joe Biden took the oath of office, before any conservative presidential candidates had even entered the race. As my friend and colleague Paul Dans before talked about briefly, our Project 2025 has developed a comprehensive policy agenda, but even more importantly, recruiting people, 20,000 people to go into the next administration, hopefully to help take back this country for you and for your audiences. We want no credit. We want the American people, if President Trump is elected again, President Trump and his administration, to take credit for that. But it will also be a great sign if
he wants Trump to take credit for this plan. Trump very much does not want to take credit for this plan because, going back to those political instincts, I think it was a bad time to post that, but he wants to deny knowing anything about it because he knows how much Americans don't want to continue with the list. Deterioration of separation of church and state, using the military to crush demonstrations against the president, deploying in a way that seems so obviously unconstitutional, etc. That is so unpopular. This plan, as people are hearing more about it, is not something people want to see in their government. That even Trump knows it. Even Trump knows that the reproductive freedoms that would be attacked. He might like the idea of doing that, but doesn't like the idea of people knowing that he wants to do that, right? If you appreciate the work that we do to put together the show every day, a way you can show that and help us continue to grow is by clicking the subscribe button. It's easy, it's free, but it makes all the difference. Back to the video. And that's why he sent out this down. Now, the president of the Heritage Foundation also recently, as we covered, said this.
Well, Professor, my great friend, thanks for filling in and doing a great job. Three things. Number one, in spite of all this nonsense.
I should note the context for this is that Kevin Roberts, as we've now seen a few times, again, president of the Heritage Foundation, is responding here to the Supreme Court immunity decision that puts the president in their official powers above the law.
From the left, we are going to win. We're in the process of taking this country back. No one in the audience should be despairing. No one should be discouraged. We ought to be really encouraged by what happened yesterday. And in spite of all of the injustice, which, of course, friends and audience of this show, of our friend Steve know, we are going to prevail. Number two, to the point of the clips and of course, your preview of the fact that I am an early American historian and love the Constitution, that Supreme Court ruling yesterday on immunity is vital. And it's vital for a lot of reasons, but I would go to Federalist number 70 if people in the audience are looking for something to read over Independence Day weekend, in addition to rereading the Declaration of Independence. Read Hamilton's number 70, because there, along with some other essays, he talks about the importance of a vigorous executive. You know, former congressman, the importance of Congress doing its job, but we also know the importance of the executive being able to do his job. And can you imagine, Dave Bratt, any president, put politics off to the side, any president having to second guess, triple guess every decision they're making in their official capacity? You couldn't have the republic that you just described. But number three, let me speak about the radical left. You and I have both been parts of faculties and faculty senates and understand that the left has taken over our institutions. The reason that they are apoplectic right now, the reason that so many anchors on MSNBC, for example, are losing their minds daily is because our side is winning. And so I come full circle in this response and just want to encourage you with some substance that we are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
We are in the process, I'll say to you again, to quote him, of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be. So the person crafting this plan is saying this is a second revolution, and it doesn't have to be bloody if the left behaves. What does that mean? So scary. Americans don't want that. That's why Trump's denying it. Again, him choosing to only brought more attention, more than I've seen since this became a discussion because of him sending that post. So, yay for that. But the reason he's running away from it is because he gets how unpopular that is. However someone feels about Biden, people don't want, at least people who value the principles of America that make it special, people don't want a dictator-esque leader who doesn't have the same checks on them, on their power, who's not able to be held accountable. Hear him overtly saying, yeah, of course a president should be immune from criminal prosecution. Anything you can construe, like the usage of the military, or assembling fraudulent electors, or selling pardons, anything you could construe as within the official powers, because you're using your official power to do it as president, the Supreme Court seems to say, at least the conservative majority, and MAGA is bolstering this, that yeah, the president should be immune from criminal prosecution. They should be the one American that's not subjected to the law like every single other American is. Something that was fundamental to this country for so long was that no one was above the law. That the rule of law is supposed to be universal. And people like this individual, Kevin Roberts, used to proclaim they stood for that, and probably still would, in a way that is wildly fake, given the views he's espousing. So imagine all that we've heard, Trump saying the government should come down hard on media outlets that he doesn't like. As I mentioned, the attacks on women's health care, the rolling back of progress on so many issues, the attempt to go after those Trump doesn't like, using his DOJ because it's no longer as independent as it currently is and should be. And whatever else you hear Trump talking about, hear him salivating over the idea of, not only will those be things that are attempted, but unlike in the past, you now have a Supreme Court saying, and he should be immune as he's attempting to do those things from criminal prosecution. He shouldn't be able to be held accountable in the same way. And there's more of a pragmatic plan to get some of these things done than there was before. So what's the phrase when they tell you who they are, believe them? I'd say that. Let me know what you thought of this in the comments. If you want to get an extra episode of the show daily, you can do so by clicking the join button below.